All right, hello wine drinking people, we're back. And man, I've had a lot of drinking over the last week, so I may have lost my place where I'm at, but I'm pretty sure this was within the last day or so. But a lot of Italians in town. We've got this, the Italian group doing this tasting down in Miami, and we just had the Italians up in New York, and then they're going back up there. So we saw a couple of great producers from Montepulciano, and in Tuscany, you've got 4 DOCGs for red. You've got Montepulciano, sounds a lot like Montepulciano. You've got, which they make Brunello di Montepulciano, Vino Nobile di Montepulciano, Chianti Classico, and Morellino di Scanzano. And for me, the best value of those 4, by far, is Vino Nobile di Montepulciano. This is the smallest of those areas, only 70 producers. Well, maybe not the smallest area, but the smallest amount of producers, I believe. There's only 70 producers, where there's about 230, or just over that, in Montepulciano. But similar grape varietals, the clone of Sangiovese that they use here is called Prunello Gentile, and because it has this lovely, gentle, suave texture on your tongue. But still Sangiovese to me, no mistaking this grape varietal. There's only a few places, only really one place on earth, that this grape grows and makes a world-class wine, and that is Tuscany and those 4 DOCGs that I just mentioned. And hey, they do grow Sangiovese in other parts of Italy, and they do make very good wines out of it. But for me, if I'm spending my money on this grape, I'm going to Tuscany. And those people that have decided to plant it in California, New Zealand, or wherever, I think it's just a big waste of time. All right. Well, that's what I got to say about that. The first winery in, Boscarelli, and this is a new winery to me, although they've been around. The first vintage was 1968, just one vintage before my first vintage. 1969, that's when I was born. But these wines, very good. You can just tell the passion and the dedication and commitment to quality that this winery has. And their Vino Nobile 2007, which is, by the way, a great vintage. And one of the things that's different climactically about this area than Montepulciano. Montepulciano is closer to the coast. So it's a little cooler here. It's a little more of a continental climate as opposed to a maritime climate. And therefore, you get wines that have a little more freshness, maybe a little more classic in style, and also a little more vintage variation. The proximity to the water tends to make things a little more similar every year, a little more easy to control. So the Vino Nobile, this wine's 95% Prunello Gentile, and the rest Mamolo and Colorino, which are the 2 varietals that you usually will see blended in. But you can use international varietals here. The producer we saw later in the day used a little Merlot in their wines. And, well, the production, which is 1 bottle per plant, is really what's important here with this wine. You notice the lovely concentration and richness, and that is how you get it in the vineyard and farming. But some lovely color in this wine, lots of fresh herbs, a little red licorice spice, fresh flowers, lovely cherry and plum fruit, typical distinct Tuscan terroir showing through on the nose and on the palate, lovely freshness and bright acidity and lovely red berry fruit, a really nice wine. Some dry tannins showing up on the finish, but still a relatively young wine. And, you know, not inexpensive, but $34.50. It's about half the price of what you find for a good Brunello. Then we have a wine, Nocio de Boscarelli. And the red soils here are what really make this part of the vineyard distinct. And Nocio means walnut tree, so not very exciting name, but I guess there's some walnut trees out here on the vineyard. And this is a very special wine, 6,000 to 10,000 bottles produced, not every vintage, only in the best vintages. It's 100% Sangiovese, but these are clones of Sangiovese, in addition to Prunello Gentile, that come from other parts of Tuscany like Montepulciano and Chianti, so 6 different clones in all. And this wine's got an incredible bouquet of exotic spices, licorice, anise, fresh plowed earth, porcini, lovely fresh red cherry and strawberry fruit, just a cornucopia of spices and fruit coming out on the nose, and very impressive on the palate, just thick and rich, concentrated, but still at the same time very fresh and lovely silky tannins here. Really impressive wine with a long, complex finish. Both of these wines really impressive. For 80 bucks, maybe a little bit hefty, but still a nice bottle of wine. All right, then Caterina Day was in. Caterina has been in a few times. She used to be with Mark de Grazia, so we've had her wines in the store for years, but we haven't had them in a couple vintages, and it's always nice to see familiar faces. And Caterina, as I mentioned before, has been in the store a couple of times to taste me on her wines. The 2008 Rosso di Montepulciano, a really nice little wine, really elegant, sleek, fresh, and has 5% Merlot. And one of the things I think Merlot does with Sangiovese is makes it a little more drinkable when it's young. Sangiovese can tend to be a little acidic and sometimes a little tannic, but really forward with regional character and distinction, but soft and very much a crowd pleaser. $16.50. That's what I'm talking about. Value, folks, here in Montepulciano. All right, next up we had the Vino Nobile 2006. Really a great vintage, man. You taste these wines from 2006 almost anywhere in Tuscany, and you notice the quality here. A lovely amount of fresh earth, dried herbs, light red berry fruit, strawberry, cherry, a little bit of dried porcini mushroom here. A really nice concentration of flavors on the palate, exotic spice and floral notes. Really fresh, long, and elegant finish there. All right, next up we had the Bossona, which is a Riserva, Vino Nobile di Montepulciano, and the yellow sand in this vineyard is really what makes it distinct in terms of the terroir, fossils, and rocks underneath it. And this is a single vineyard, and 2004, one of the best vintages in terms of balance and concentration, in comparable to 2008. If you're looking at comparable recent vintages, this wine's got a lovely bouquet of red cherry fruit, wild strawberries, red licorice spice, fresh floral notes, and aged 30 months in tonneau. But you really don't get a ton of new oak out of this wine. 100% Pernolo Gentile, wonderful concentration, and a long finish on this wine. Really nice at $55. Most excellent juice. And then the Dei Sancta Caterina. And this wine is a blend of Syrah, Sangiovese, Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Verdot. Wow. And, well, Pernolo Gentile would be the Sangiovese. Really exotic, man. Cocoa, dark spices, fresh flowers on this wine. Just an incredible bouquet. I'm your host, Andrew Lamposone, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good.